Another resource for worship that many of us have found helpful is Leonard Sweet. And maybe you've read his books or been to some of his workshop kinds of things. But Len Sweet came up a number of years ago with with epic worship. And, epic starts as the four letters each stand for something. E stands for experiential. So the E in epic is experiential worship. Worship that is alive and has lots that's going on, and that some of it's unplanned, some of it emerges from the context at the moment. It's participatory. It's worship, that's the P, moves from just, coming to sit and receive. It takes us out of the observer and recipient mode and gets us to become a participant in some way in worship. Maybe it's taking communion. Maybe it's going to pray with somebody or asking somebody to pray with us. Maybe it's giving a testimony. Maybe it's lighting a candle. But it's participatory. The I in epic stands for image-based. That's worship that, either projects images, uses artwork or film or video. We think this is new. It's not. Go into a cathedral someday, particularly in Europe, and look around. Oh my gosh, it's sensory overload. They're statues, they're frescoes, they're mosaics, they're stained glass telling a story. There's all this art that's going on, all this image that's helping to create the worship experience. And we need to get back to that. Recover that same principle, but using some of those things, statuary, whatever, and stained glass, but also bringing what we have as images in our modern world, our videos, our pictures, all of those kinds of things that are available to us. So epic worship is experiential, participatory, image-based, and it's communal. That's the C of epic. We move from going to church to being church. And the emphasis in worship is as much on community and community connection as just attending and watching and observing. So I hope you'll find Len Sweet's work or Mark Batterson's comments helpful as you think about creative worship in your setting. And to be honest, there is no shortage of provocative ideas for worship. You've got probably some of those books on your bookshelf you could pull down that are helpful in terms of stirring creativity. Before I end, I want to just share with you what I personally am looking for in worship as one who ends up participating in worship more nowadays than being the one who leads worship. When I attend worship, I'm looking for something a little deeper than just to be entertained. Frankly, I hope for nothing less than an encounter with the divine that reminds me of the sacred meaningfulness of life and my connection to that sacred meaningfulness. And I'll tell you what else. I expect to be challenged. I expect to be challenged, if not shaken, by the charge to live a life that's more faithful, that's more authentic, and that is more evidenced with Christ's love. So those are some of the things. I want to end with a couple of questions for you to ponder before our call together. What would it look like for you to gather some highly creative people from your context and invite them into the process of creating worship? What would that look like to form a worship design team? What would it look like for you to add an additional worship service? One other option, one other point of entry for people who are looking for a worship experience in a style that you're not currently offering, but that would help to meet their needs of worshiping God. And finally, what's one thing that you can do as pastor, as lead pastor in your church, what's one thing that you can do that's within your control to help worship become even more vital? And the reason that's important is because I deeply believe that God wants us to give this our very best. In worship, He wants the very best from us. And in fact, He requires that of us. My friend Melissa, again, says this about worship. She says, in worship, God breaks into our messiness, joins us in our brokenness, and creates a spirit of possibility. In the beginning, God spoke a word. Actually, God spoke a world into being. All of this. Worship is simply our response.